So 820. So I take it you saw my super brownie top.
I'm glancing at the screen. Like, did he really just put a recipe for brownies?
Oh, yeah. I took a note out of one of my absolute favorite movie ending title sequences ever, Hot Shots. And I went and I found that brownie topping recipe because I remember watching that in the theater and laughing because it's the credits. Who's going to be paying attention? Sure enough, there's a brownie recipe. So I was like, I'm going to add that in here. Why not?
Oh man, I didn't even have time to think about my air guitar and drums because it was
drums. You missed
I was sitting here thinking, did I eat what brownies?
So you haven't noticed that every week I've been changing the intro. It's never the same. It's always something different. Last week it was we couldn't think of a shorter title, so everybody had to explain it. And this explanation has now turned into a much longer title. Yeah, so just have fun with it whenever you make it because you do it yourself. It's easier to just have fun.
Yeah, I liked last week's. Last week's had some extra bang in there with extra instruments.
Well, this week was the extra instrument one. I added all the extra bass.
Oh wow, yeah. It's different. These headphones are like they're mega bass inside, and so I hear everything. Now the last 2 weeks have just been, whereas before those little cheap headphones were garbage. So anyway,
well, welcome to Wednesday night. I'm MikeZ.
I'm still Chris, I suppose.
And Kyle, he caught the brownie intro. Oh yeah.
You're going to go back and pause that, and you're going to make that brownie just to check it out.
It's a brownie topping, though. That's the best part. It's not the brownies. Next week will be the brownie recipe that's also in that end clip.
Just show the back of the brownie box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I have this. Check it out. I now decided to do scrolling.
Look at you.
No. And then, of course, hey, you have an idea for a show or you want to know more in depth about topics? Want to know the secret brownie recipe? Share, like, and subscribe.
That's right. What is it? The 10th subscriber gets a free brownie recipe.
Good evening, John. Good evening, Kyle, guys. How you doing? Thank you for joining us live. Appreciate it. And so tonight is the Wheel of Misfortune. We've been calling it all kinds of stuff this week, but yeah, Wheel of Misfortune seems to be the best. I was calling it Wheel of Torture, but
the Wheel of Whatnot.
The Wheel of Whatnot is right. I'll tell you what, I need an air conditioner. It's warm in this bad boy. All right, so now we'll go ahead and by the way, we are MikeZ, DuffStyle1 on Instagram, Chris S at Crisscross Crafts Instagram, CNC Master. Did you like that right in the beginning? I was like, I got Chris. I'll get it. I'll get him on this one. 826 miles and then enter. I thought you'd enjoy it. Anyways, I don't know nothing. So welcome to the Wheel of Names.com wheel.
You know you're poor and broke when you're operating off of a free wheel of customization. But hey, so what we decided to do, we were talking about topics and trying to challenge ourselves a little bit. And of course, we enjoy that, torturing ourselves. So we decided to put a random array of topics on this little spinny wheel.
Yep.
And each of those topics, some of them are, well, let's just say trigger words, controversial. But what we're going to do, we're not going to talk about the controversial side. We're going to find a way to draw it back to woodworking. That's how we roll. but we wanted to get people's attention. So we'll see how that goes. And we may flop and fail, and this may not ever find its way back on the screen again. But
it was worth a shot. I mean,
yeah,
not do it yourself. You can do whatever you want to. Because see, like at work, politics and religion are 100% off grounds. You never talk about them. So that's why I was like, well, wait, why don't we just put that as a topic and then we figure out a way to come back to woodworking on it.
Yeah, but see, now here's the deal, Mike. You have to announce this like one of those game show announcers. Since you are the announcer voice, you have to present this and click that clicker, just like you're some kind of an announcer on television.
All right,
do it right.
Challenge accepted. Thank you so much for that, Chris. So let's get started with the Wheel of Fortune for What Not Podcast.
I'm dizzy already.
And it looks like it's going to be perfect. Work-related event.
Huh. That's new.
Gotta add it at the last minute just to drive you insane. We love our jobs. Thank you so much for having us at our jobs and then paying us to do our job. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
So that was work.
Oh, you want me to take that one?
Yeah, that was it. I was going to see if you paid attention and noticed. That's all it was for.
Oh, okay. Well, since we're going to drive these trigger topics back to woodworking, we work, or I'll just put me. I won't even include you. I'll just put me. I work for a store that sells woodworking equipment and supplies, not sponsored. And so, all day I get to talk to people about woodworking and help people with woodworking questions and, find solutions. And so it's always a fun. You never know what you're going to get because I have to help respond to emails that the customer service team can't answer or that the store guys can't answer or crisp questions that come on. And usually Mike and I both handle that one pretty good, but so it's a trick. You never know. The simple question can spawn into the most tiresome conversation ever.
I have to laugh just because sometimes you think it's an easy question. So you're like, okay, just go ahead and answer it. And then it turns into, well, while I have you here, I need you to write me a book.
Yes.
Sometimes, honestly, it's easier just to say, hey, I tell you what, why don't you just give me a call? Why don't we just talk about it? Then typing this all out, this would be a lot easier, or emails back and forth.
So, no, Mike. I don't want a phone call because I need to be able to have a transcript of this so I can refer back to it.
That is funny too. Can you email me all this? Because you gave me a lot of information and no one else seems to have. Sure. We can do that. So yeah, that's our work related rant. That's it. It's just, we like helping people. We really do enjoy it. But at the same time, it's like sticking your hand in a bag. You really don't know what you're going to pull out.
It's a love-hate relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then, since we've recently gone through a complete software upgrade or a complete software change, I'll phrase it that way, a complete software change.
Call it an overhaul.
It's been fun. Been fun. But hey,
I'd rather just build a car from the ground up and not have all the bolts. That would be easier.
I just thought of a TikTok I saw last night. A guy who was a mechanic, and he ran over and had this giant tub of just some random bolts and
he puts them on the other technicians.
He grabbed one bolt and he went and put it on the other technician's cart. He said it's always fun watching him at the end of a job.
Oh yeah, trying to figure out, oh man, where's that go? That would be a lot of fun, and at the same time, that would also be bad.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so next we're going to spin the wheel.
Oh, again?
I think so. Now let's find out what we're going to have now on What Not Podcast. It is time to spin the wheel.
Oh, are we going to get lucky? Get one of those horrible.
Looks like it's going to be religion, Chris.
All right. Well, let's see. How can I put this? Let me just think of religion. Jesus was a carpenter. He died on the cross, and the cross is made of wood. And that's what we do, wood. We like to work with wood. How's that? Does that bring it back to us?
I think that brings it back to woodworking. Sure. What kind of wood was it? Did they ever mention that? I never paid attention.
Well, actually, in those times, the word carpenter wasn't necessarily a woodworker. Carpenter could have been a stonemason, or it could have been a bricklayer. One of those other other sort of construction field kind of terms. So again, no one knows, but in that time, that would have been considered a carpenter.
Okay, so a tradesperson, someone who worked with their hands, built something, was a carpenter in general.
He was an electrician.
That really answered the question of what type of wood it was. Thank you so much for that. That was so close.
Oh, that.
I feel so much better. Yeah, I figured olive.
Oh, I didn't hear the. I didn't hear what kind of wood was it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, what kind of wood was it? They never mentioned that because I didn't pay attention to that. I didn't look at that.
Completely missed that.
All right. I like how politics has now changed to blue and red is sanding.
It was probably driftwood.
All right, on to the next topic. Let's take a look
Cypress knees.
Now, don't forget, guys, when it comes to viewers' choice, you guys have to respond. Here we go for our third roll. Perfect. We'll take it. It's going to be CNC Chris.
CNC. I was knocking out a little sign for someone earlier today. I will say that a lot of CNC folks, especially people who are trying to, and this came up Saturday during when I was working with a gentleman, that a lot of folks teaching CNC, apart from Kyle and maybe one other person, they try to do it in a way sometimes that makes them seem more intelligent or make the process harder than it really needs to be. This gentleman I was working with, I spent almost 4 hours with him Saturday teaching him. It was sort of a one-on-one class kind of deal.
Okay.
He said he spent hours and hours watching all these videos on how to set up and prepare and do just a simple surfacing of his spoil board. And he said the easiest video he found, he said he had 9 little notebook pages of steps. And I said, well, really, you don't need that. I said, make a rectangle the size of your table, do a pocket cut, do a profile cut on the line, you're done. He went, what? And so I showed him in Vectric how to do that. And he goes, all the hours I spent watching videos, he said, literally in 3 steps, you've given me this new toolpath. I said, it doesn't have to be hard. It's very simple. I said, now, are there better ways of doing it? Yes. And just like anything else, there's always a better, more advanced, more complete way of doing things. But when you're talking about CNC, for instance, it's important, especially people who are getting started. Do things simply.
Keep it simple, stupid.
And that's one of the reasons why I love how Kyle has set up his program, because it's so very simple and very basic, but yet you walk away, even with the basic stuff, going, I never knew that. So anyway, that was my combination rant /CNC.
Not sponsored, but check out learnyourcnc.com for more information on how you can learn to operate your CNC more efficiently with less steps. All right.
There you go.
Oh, that's the wrong button.
Oh, you don't have anything to say about CNC?
I don't have one.
Oh.
Okay. So I can say this. I've seen a lot of people demonstrate it. I've seen a lot of people try to bring interest to it. And I think that there are those who are really passionate about it. Dave Gatton for sure is one of them. Mark Lindsay, Kyle, then you have Laney. And then there's a guy named Troy who worked for ShopBot that I watched, and he was really passionate about it. And I think that really kind of shows to the people who has never had one before. So for me, for instance, I'm that person who's never had one. I'm looking at like, is that something I could use? Is it something I could do something with? Or am I just kind of buying it because everyone else has got one? And every one of them has this passion behind it where it's like, there's so much you can do. It really just depends on what journey you want to take in CNC. And I think that is what makes the difference for CNC to me, is that it's not just one tool. It's a multitude of tools that it can be. Just depends on which way you want to go with it. Oh, learnyourcnc.com is getting a big upgrade soon, says Kyle.
With big old eyeballs.
That sounded wrong.
He had big old eyeballs in his text.
Did They have big old nipples. Just
Googly eyes. Googly eyes.
Next up is gonna be the Wheel of Fortune for What Not Podcast. What's it gonna land on? Oh, COVID shots. Chris, this is all your perfection.
Well,
Yes, sir.
COVID shots are given through a needle. Needles can also be used in woodworking.
Okay.
If you've got a little part of a veneer that's bubbled up, that's not no longer sticking to the surface, you can pin poke it, push a little glue in there with the needle, press it down, good to go. No more poochy little bubble in the veneer. It's also good for filling little knot holes with epoxy, or little small areas with epoxy or glue that you other things that you need to fill that with. So it works out really well. I've used those syringes before, and they come in handy.
They come in handy, yes. Okay, so yeah, that's really the only thing I've used a syringe for, is to inject underneath veneer, or to remove air, or to bring air to it if you want to actually bubble it up on purpose. There's reasons. Yeah, I don't have anything else other than that, though.
Well, and just like the COVID shot, some people want to use needles to spread to glue, put into the glue veneer, and other people want to use something else, or some people just don't want to use it at all.
Okay, that went down a road I wasn't quite sure where it was going to go. Didn't know you were going to bring that back.
I was just trying to expand on that a little more, and just offer other opportunities here.
You did fantastic.
Well, hey, that's a hard topic. We should not have put that in there, but hey, it worked out.
This is what you get when you collaborate for a Wheel of Fortune. Workplace rant, or work-related rant, and COVID shots. Yeah, there's always going to be a tricky one in there.
Oh, did you do another one? It was on finishing.
No, I'm removing them as we go.
Oh, I see.
So see, now we're on guns. Oh, great! Another trigger word. This should go over well. So see, I removed it. So
guns.
maybe can I use two at the same time? No, I'll just do this. Okay, so what about spray guns? What about blow guns?
There you go.
Okay, so it's you get a much more even finish when you atomize spray in the air. But in order to do that, you have to use a spray gun.
Is it semi-automatic?
No, fully manual, single press. You can hold it as long as you want to, but you will eventually run out of fluid.
Okay. Also, some guns have wooden handles or little hand pieces that you can incorporate that into. That's Woodworking 101. Making a gun stock.
Okay.
Not only your handguns, but your rifles and stuff too. They all have, or some of them have, wooden stocks. So
that's what we'll call it, Kyle. Rapid fire finish. Sounds catchy. It is.
Yeah. We're just shooting from the hip here, guys. We're trying to come up with good topics.
By all means, if you have an idea for a show or you want to know more in-depth topic, hey, let us know.
Yeah, we're debating on trying to do this Wheel of Misfortune other times, and so we're trying to. If you guys come up with good topics, message them, say, "Hey, put this on the wheel," and we'll add it to the wheel.
We have no problem with that. Sometimes it's that we have too many ideas, and we're like, "Well, do we cover that?" And it's like, "Well, can you cover that for an hour?" I don't know.
I mean, we're not here for us. We're here for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we can do this anytime during the day, really.
Yeah,
I've got. I swear. Anyways, all right. I have a fly. There's one fly in here. One.
We'll zip it up.
It does this right above. So it's like, come on, man.
Pilot the bombardier.
And let's spin it.
It seems like we're drunk on this show for some reason.
I know. Chris made that comment last time he was here. Oh, good politics.
That was.
Well, Chris, you want me to take this one first?
Okay. Politics, typically you are on one side or the other. And in today's climate, You're on one extreme or another.
Yeah.
Most folks are one extreme to the other.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are times in woodworking where that same philosophy applies, aka team roundover versus team chamfer,
That's right.
team oil versus lacquer.
I'd say water-based versus oil-based.
Okay, close enough.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
So, yeah. So there's a lot of things where there's extremes, and some people don't find a middle. One that we discussed today: hand planes and scrapers versus sandpaper.
Sandpaper. That is definitely that was my politic selection, because that one is the one I always have gotten in trouble with on Facebook. Is whenever you're in those, unplugged woodworking type places. By the way, just so everyone knows, it's team chamfer all day. All day.
Roundover.
So what do you guys think? Are you a team chamfer person, or are you a team roundover person?
This could get they could come back with team Romanoji.
Nope, no. It's got to be one or the other. It's got to be the straight cut, or it's got to be the rounded over. An OG to me is still a roundover, because it's not a chamfer or OG.
What about a cove?
Same thing, just an inverted roundover.
A lot of ways you can go with that.
Yep. But let's take a look. What would be your simple, easy favorite fix? We've got Kyle. Kyle's going to say both have their place, but I like team chamfer.
We need to get a boost.
Oh, I don't think so, because even John's all about team chamfer.
Come on, John. Come on.
Chris is the only one who's on team roundover.
You guys.
We'll do a poll just for giggles to see how badly
we just did. I got outvoted 3-1.
Okay, we're done. This works. 75 to 25. You're out, Chris. Sorry. Good. Have a good day.
That's okay. I didn't change. I'm pretty strong in my faith. I'll hold tight to my team roundover.
Okay. Whatever works for you.
Yeah, it's just the way it goes.
That's right.
Stick tight to my roundover profile.
So yeah, when it comes to politics, for me, it's the two things in woodworking would be team chamfer, team roundover, or if you're going to use a hand plane, and you're going to put a finish on. For being a finish guy, that is probably the easiest thing to answer. Don't. But then you get into the politics of it, where they're like, well, I can put a smoother finish on a piece of wood than sandpaper. True, it's glass smooth, but you do realize, like, nothing penetrates glass, right? Nothing sticks to it. It peels off. It causes finishing issues. That's all there is to it. So unless it's going to be natural or sanded to 12,000 grit so you polish it,
if you're going to use a hand plane, you might as well just go right to buffing. You're not going to do any kind of finish.
No.
So,
and hope for the best. You could put you still could even put a wax on there, because it can't soak in, it can't grab or hold. So there's no mechanical grab or bond, which is the problem.
Yep.
All right, so
that should be a topic that we discuss, like, for a whole hour. We could cover that. We could elaborate on that a little more.
Finishing troubleshooting or what?
I don't know.
We could cover several episodes of finishing. There's too much, I've realized.
Well, I mean, you could utilize, like we mentioned earlier, go look at other content creators and take their videos and let's dissect them. And then anything that might be missing, let's kind of add to it. I don't know. That's something to think about. But either way, that particular topic could easily, we could talk about that for a while.
I tell you what we should do is that we should do this. Ask the community.
Okay, John, Kyle.
I guess critique. All that right. It doesn't look right anyways. It could be there. Okay, sorry. All right, let's spin the wheel. But no, I mean, even if it's something like Kyle's video, maybe Kyle has a video where he's like, hey, what could this need more of? What could this do? I don't care. Man,
and it doesn't have to be just straight up oh, this guy's blasphemous with his speaking. I mean, but maybe they, like, I watched a video today. I won't name names. They covered this topic, and it was very well done. Probably one of the most well done of this sort of type topic that I've watched. However, they missed one little thing that would have given reasoning as to why sandpaper is important in the equation.
Gotcha.
So that's a potential thing right there. I mean, again, it's not bashing the person. It's, hey, you did great. You just missed something. So here we're going to cover that.
Unless you're the wood whisperer, and I'll call you right out on it, that you cannot hand plane something and then put oil finish on it and call it a penetrating finish. Just can't. So, that would be the only critiques I would have, is where people say something like that. And it's like, that doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. But
yes.
I'm not a know-it-all by any means, but I do know that doesn't work. And then, of course, people come to us in our day job and they say, hey, I watched this video. I'm trying to mimic it, but it's not working. Can you help me with it? Yes, we can. Oh, we're ready.
First thing you do, forget this whole second half of that video, and then go from this point, do this.
No, I have to. I've learned to back it all the way up to, let's start with what is your sanding process? That'll help me tremendously, because a lot of those things are kind of, they don't say it in those videos. They're just like, oh, I sand up to 220. Do you do every single grit? Do you do just 220? Like, there's a lot of variables there that could really cause issues.
Like a gentleman we talked to today. He already had it in his mind. He was going to do 320 and 400 oil finish.
Yeah.
He already had it in his mind. And the minute he posted the picture of his bowl that he was going to do that to, which I'm glad he did, because in my mind, I'm thinking a traditional round bowl. This was more of a flat bottomed bowl.
Yeah.
Anyway, when I saw that, it was made of a white wood. I knew instantly we couldn't recommend the silicon carbide because of the dark grain and how it was going to shed and create a dark slurry. And that little comment just clicked with him, and it made sense to him. So sometimes, more details help us out, but it's important when you're having a conversation about woodworking. There are so many little things that if you don't have all the details, like you said, one step, that's not going to work. It's not going to, you can't do it that way.
Or with your project and what you're trying to do, it's not going to happen. My favorite one today was, why don't they make 2 horsepower drill presses? I was thinking, because I want to keep my arms. Like, why would you need a 2 horsepower drill press?
What are you mixing concrete with that thing?
No, that was the first thing I thought. I was like, well, when you get into that range, you need a mill, and well, you're dealing with a completely different medium. But yeah, so we do get some questions where you're like, what's your application? Because now I'm curious. Wrong button. Okay, here we go. Let's find out what the wheel of misfortune will have today.
Who knows?
You're the one that added that.
Well, I added it to have something kind of random.
Yeah. So take it away.
Okay, so we have a viewer's choice and we have a who knows. All right, it's up to Kyle or John. Whoever answers first, that's the topic we talk about under the who knows. Whoever answers second, when we get to the viewer's choice, that's what we talk about. How's that?
I bet you they're typing as hard as they can right now, trying to figure out what they can get out quickly.
They're probably thinking, did he say something?
Aliens, do
I
they
had it on mute.
We need to know from Kyle. Sorry, Kyle, this gets into the religious topic, and we've already covered that tonight. I'm just
kidding. Well, it depends on where you stand. There is evidence that there's something else going on. But what is that something else? It's a tough call. Depends on where you land with your like you said, we talked about religion. But there's clearly things out there, video evidence, but what are they? That's kind of that whole thing about ghosts. Is ghosts real? So you kind of
That's a good one.
flounder in the same kind of realm there.
So let me ask you this. Do you have any video evidence of your own related to this?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
Just because I'm not out, flying aircraft and going out into desolate places and,
Okay, good.
Although my belly's really big and it looks like I'm pregnant, maybe I was abducted and didn't know it.
There's always a saying that I heard that everything that we think we know that we can touch, smell, see, and hear is only 1/1,000,000th of a reality. We only know what we know, so therefore there could be something completely different outside of our own consciousness right now. So is it aliens? We don't know what it is. So we just call it something.
Yeah. And there's a lot of documents and a lot of footage being unredacted and released lately from Navy and Air Force pilots, and so I don't know. Good question.
And then that gets into politics.
I think you asked that in the wrong group. I don't know. Mike does watch all those smart people YouTube channels, so maybe he's got a better understanding than I do.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know what we would call it. There's a lot of different theories behind it, as far as people who time travel, and then they don't want to give up their secret that they can time travel or interfere, such as what Doc Brown had told Marty McFly several times, stop interfering. Of course, like he's going to listen. Something as simple as that are we basically a petri dish of a planet? And then, do people check up on us just like a kid in a sandbox? So there's so many theories to it, but there's definitely something that's outside of us, whatever it may be. It could even be us, but it's definitely something outside of our reality. That's all I know. Oh, here we go. Isn't the Alien Anonymous group? Yes. Yes, this is the Alien Anonymous group. I'm pretty sure YouTube is going to be like, wait a minute, they talked about what? When they try to put together everything for their auto log, they're going to be like, they talked about what?
Now, if we really want to get controversial, we could have answered his question. Well, yes. Haven't you been to the Texas border lately? Something like that. But that takes it back to the politics.
It goes, see, and they can always tie right back into each other. Yeah. I was saying about everything being released. That's definitely all politics. That is not pulling the wool over your eyes, but that's the hey, why don't you look over here? This is what's going on, so you don't pay attention to what that is. Mm-hmm. When you live outside of DC long enough, you see it all types, and yeah, that's what that is. That's all I think it is. But an ant farm, that's perfect. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Wouldn't it be funny if there was like some sort of a higher up, and basically we're on a shelf in their YouTube channel? They just keep humans as a gift. It's like a pet. It's like a puppy.
Wait, was John commenting on what our topic there, or was that his topic that he wanted to talk about? Ant farms.
I think that was in relation to what I was talking about.
Oh, okay. I thought he was chiming in with his own topic there. I want to be sure.
I mean, we could talk about an ant farm if you want to. It's quality entertainment. They don't really make them anymore like they used to.
No, I have plenty of them in my backyard. I'm an organic ant farmer.
Ooh, okay. So I have a question for you. You know how there's evolution, things have evolved and changed. Why haven't ants? They've been around since the dinosaurs, and yet they're still the same.
I mean, if you could lift, was it 10, 30, or 30 times your weight, why would you need to change?
Just throwing that out there. They still dig in the dirt, make themselves a home wherever they end up, and still do the same process over and over again. Decades, centuries.
Our military could take lessons from them. I mean, they are so disciplined in regards to just, you have a job, go do it.
Well, John, definitely comment. I'm not saying it was a bad thing.
Okay.
But it got us on the topic of ants. Millions of years without evolution. What do you know?
Yeah, I'm more of a fan of uncles, but that's okay.
Well, let's take a spin.
Oh, here we go.
Joints. Joints.
Mm,
Definitely joints.
what kind of joints are you going to talk about?
Woodworking joints.
Oh, those.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they're fun.
Wow.
I'm kind of
And,
traditional. I like the butt joints. I've modernized a little bit, expanded on the butt joint, and included a pocket screw.
okay.
Occasionally dovetail or, you know, box joint.
So dados. Is that a joint?
It is.
Okay. So it's a rabbit joint, right?
No,
Okay.
a rabbit joint falls on the edge or the end of a board where only two parts of the wood are removed. That's a
Okay.
rabbit. A dado is where three parts still remain. You've actually made a groove. A
Okay.
dado is similar to a groove.
So it has three sides
Mm-hmm.
and not two.
Correct.
There you go. See, I noticed that on Instagram. Someone said they made a dado on the end of the board. And I was like, well, you might have used a dado blade or you might have used a mortising bit. I was like, but isn't that a rabbit? So,
Yep.
so here's the question for you. Why don't they use that in Europe?
Europeans are pretty simple. I mean, they like the butt joint. I mean, they're the ones that started the European cabinet style
Mm-hmm.
back in the early '90s, late '80s.
Yep.
Which it's a much easier cabinet to build for sure than the old face frame style. But I don't know.
I always wondered that
Couldn't
because
tell you.
whenever we went to Festool school way back in the day, that was one of the things that they had mentioned is that dados were an American thing. They don't use them in Europe. They're not a thing.
We like our stuff stronger.
There you go. So, the Doobie Brothers is a very good band that smoke joints. Yes, yes. Thank you, John.
Sorry, man. I was thinking Cheech and Chong.
Oh man, Up in Smoke. What a quality movie. Still good, even when you're not high. Not that I've ever been. That just sounded wrong. Anyways,
You've seen people that have been.
yeah, I've watched people who have watched it. Anyways,
You're a secondhand hire guy. Yeah.
what was it that Glenn said I never inhaled? That was always the joke back in the day. We old. All right, so yeah, joint wise, what is the hardest one to set up for?
Probably one of those elaborate dovetails that's got multiple dovetails where you've like got inlaid wood into a dovetail. I've
Okay,
seen people that make multiple. They'll make a dovetail and then they'll inlay that with a piece of wood. Then they'll make a smaller dovetail inside of that, so that you've got accenting pieces of wood, and then your correlating pieces that go to it are a different piece of wood. So you got a lot of multiple things going on there. It's too much for me. I ain't got time for that.
so let me ask you: is that a CNC joint? Because what about that? I've seen a lot of crazy CNC joints, and of course, there's the hand or the traditional woodworking joints. Have you tried any of the CNC joints, like the big circle ones?
No, I've done box joints on the CNC.
Okay, that's probably easier to set up than using either a box joint jig on the table saw or router.
Well, and some of those do require, if you're going to do certain joints like that on the CNC, it requires a CNC that allows the gantry to move out to the edge of the table so that your part can be ran vertical
Okay.
instead of, just like if you were using a dovetail jig, you've got that one board that you have to run vertical that hangs down off the top, the front edge. CNCs have the same thing. There's a few CNC manufacturers that offer that option.
So Kyle's done a lot of the puzzle joints on the CNC. I've just wondered how that goes. I've seen them. That was one of the things that Troy from ShopBot talked about, and he had a lot of like these crazy. What is that? The knot pin. It's the old nap, the nap joint. It was the one with the circle and the pin in it. So it was like a tongue and groove / mortise and tenon / dovetail type. And they ended using it the turn of the century, 19th century. So 1890s, I found a lot of them on 1890s furniture, but I thought that one was cool for the CNC. Thought bringing that back was neat. But they are super strong and look good. Cool.
Yeah, the one thing about doing joints like that on the CNC is because you're doing all of your design in a software. It's real easy to be dead on accurate. So as long as you set your boards up right, I mean it can be. I mean it's going to be snug, and you can obviously adjust your lines just so that you allow for a few thousandths of movement. So.
So you're saying that that was the thing about the CNC. Again, it replaces another tool that you don't necessarily need to have the dovetailing jig and everything. That you can make that happen.
Yep.
There. All right, only 3 topics left. What do you think is going to be the final topic?
It's getting questionable here.
I think finishing will be the last one.
Probably. Come on. Here we go.
Buddy, that was close.
Wow.
Looks like a record.
Looks like it was popular back in the 90s. It's kind of coming back a little bit where the little characters came in a ball and you threw them and they battled each other.
Pokemon.
There you go. Looks like a Pokemon symbol.
So let's talk about sanding because we do that every day. Did you pick that one in there?
Yeah, I just thought it random something. I was out of ideas.
So okay, so go with grits. Go with something that's standard for us that maybe not everyone knows.
In my grits, I like butter and sugar.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's fair enough.
Oh, sanding. I'm sorry.
Grits,
yeah. Sorry, I was thinking food.
Actually, that disappoints me because our local little, hole in the wall dive doesn't make grits anymore. It doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, how do you not make grits?
If you're in the South, it's kind of a given.
It should be a standard, just like sausage, gravy, and bacon.
But I could see that if you lived in Pennsylvania or something, or Ohio.
Yeah, but North Carolina, it's like you might as well have a barbecue place, a hole in the wall that makes all the way hot dogs. By the way, that's chili, mustard, and onions. Yeah, so those are the standards. It's almost like taking away the all the way hot dog. You can't. I don't know. So, anyways, yeah, that's a disappointment. They don't have grits now.
Yeah. See how easy it is to go down a topic? I told you we could talk about stuff for forever, just random. But
it's so random.
Yeah.
So sanding, let's aluminum oxide, standard grit, silicon carbide, really to be specialty grit is the way I'd like to put that. In between coats of finish, glass, leather, rubber, plastics, not wood, not bare wood. And then aluminum zirconia, just a more tough, durable version of aluminum oxide. It's the Chris of abrasives.
Yeah.
That's really, I mean, those are just basics.
Sharp and blocky.
Yep. Well, that was great. Thank you so much for putting that topic in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could expound on what we were talking about earlier about the importance of planes and
planes. Yeah, I was thinking exactly the same thing. So, you don't want to sand past 220 on bare wood. That's an easy one. For us, that's a standard thing that we probably say at least two to 3 times a day. Because there's a lot of people out there, especially turners, which we have that AAW coming up. And the one thing that's really hard for me to try to get them to break the habit of is sanding up to 400. And the reason they do it is because they're on the lathe and they have cross grain scratches. And when they sand up to 400, it blends them. The downside is it's so polished, it doesn't really take finish very well. If you want a durable finish, like you can see people put CA glue on things. You'll see people put oil and shellacs and all types of finishes. The problem is that if you handle it, it will wear off very quickly. And that's the problem because the wood's too polished. So,
and they're typically cross grain scratching that anyway. So when they do put that on there, you get it's obvious that there's spots that didn't get sanded.
Yes.
No matter what you do, it's always important to go back with the grain with sandpaper just to kind of even out any particular cross grain or little pigtails that may have found their way on the surface.
Okay, so what I have my answer for this, and so my question to you is that a customer walks in, or a person in general in the woodworking community wants to know your opinion on their project. What's the first question you ask?
If they ask me,
Yeah.
and they ask me legitimately, "Hey, what do you think of this?" I'll usually will say something along the lines of, "How detailed would you like it critiqued?"
Okay.
If they're a beginner and I know they're a beginner, then I'm very easy on them. I admire, I comment and compliment the project, but I'm always going to give them one little nugget to walk away with to make them think about, okay, I can see that. So next time I'll do it this way. So at least it's not just a, hey, great job, keep it up. They always
Yeah.
walk away with something that they can
For-
take from the conversation.
Okay. Mine is always, sugar coated, or are you looking for how to make this better? And I found out too, never to say, oh, is this your first one? It's kind of like saying to a woman, are you pregnant? It's just, that doesn't go over well. So instead, it's almost like, how many of these have you done? Like, is this something you normally make? Is it something you're normally selling? And they say, oh, this is my first one. It's like, okay. Sometimes you're looking at it like, dang, I couldn't do that on my first one. Ain't no way.
Mhm.
And sometimes you look at it as in like, okay, now I know what our baseline is.
Right.
But I always got to ask if you want it to be, so when we talk about YouTube videos or people out there who are making things, and we're not saying it as in like we're the experts of everything in the world, but at the same time, we've seen a lot of people's projects. We've seen a lot of issues that they've run into, and everyone seems to be running into very similar issues. There's really only a handful of ones that are just completely bonkers, out of control. They don't make any sense, but for the most part, everyone kind of has the same type of issues and they run into this roadblock. So our job has actually turned into being a cheerleader for them, a coach to say, hey, this is looking really good. If you just change this one part of the process, you can get rid of all this extra work that you're making for yourself.
Well, and a
Happy.
lot of times when you're talking to someone, you can ask them, how do you feel about it? What things do you notice that you're not happy with? And they pick up on a lot of things that you're going to talk about. And if they can say it, then I don't have to. But it gives me something else to talk about with them. It's okay. So what could you have done differently right here to make this work different or better? So
No, that's a good point. That's a really good point, because I don't. It's all, everyone's different in how you approach it, for sure. But the biggest thing,
if you the beauty of doing it the where you ask them to give their opinion on their project and then you elaborate on that is you can calm them down and say, listen, how many of these have you made? Clearly you've not made thousands of these, so you're not gonna know how to do this the way that others do. But for what you've done, looks great. There's
yeah.
ways of bringing it back around, but still giving them feedback that they can glean from.
What I always like is that we've been down roads where, a blade was nicked or wasn't sharp or whatever the case may be, that has these funny little things to it. And so when they ask us on this, yeah, I was doing this, but I didn't like how this turned out. And you can look at it and just be like, oh, well, you just need to sharpen your blade, or, oh, okay, so I think one of the teeth on your blade is missing. Because when you did saw blades for a while, you brought me a lot of ones that people had done some stuff to. And then I'm using them to cut with, and I'm seeing the results of that. Like,
Yep.
if a blade's out of round, something that for most people, they don't pay attention. They're not looking for that. They don't think their blade happens to have that problem. But when you get to actually put one on and use it, you get a lot more information that way.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost research and development.
And a lot of times on your particular topic with the blade, a lot of times you can hear it in a machine before you ever run a piece of wood through it. And you're like, yeah, I'm not running nothing through that. So
That sounds like it's going to come flying apart at any moment.
why is my machine walking away?
So I'm going finishing. I guess you're going to have to go with general woodworking as the last one. So let's find out.
Click the Pokemon ball.
Dang.
Oh, it screamed across. Look at that.
That's hilarious. Can I still? Oh, I can do that. Look at that. Anyways, all right. So stop sharing. We're good there. I just had to see if that would work. All right. So finishing, which we have covered some things. I'm going to be doing a video. I've decided this has to be done. Of other than the standard oil-based, water-based finishes, shellac finishes, turpentine, the standard 4 is the oil penetration finish. I've been talking about it for umpteen years, and
Yeah, you have.
I know. And the thing is that when I explain it to people, it's like they're like, "Oh, I've never heard anyone doing this," and they're writing it down. You can tell they're writing it down. And I think the problem comes in that they are overthinking the simplicity of a oil penetration finish. So we had mentioned earlier in abrasives that you don't use silicon carbide on bare wood. Chris had mentioned that too, as far as that bowl that he was looking at, that calabash bowl, because silicon carbide grain breaks very easily. And when you have a light wood and you're doing bare wood sanding, it actually will wedge itself into the wood. So it breaks off and it makes these dark crystal looking shiny spots, like glitter. It really just looks like dark glitter. So it's a dark embedded pigment, and then it has a shininess to it. So, but if you add oil to that process of sanding the wood, you then in turn save yourself a ton of time down the line, because you start a slurry of the dust with the oil and you're sanding it into the wood, so it'll help soak it in better. I can make, there's a board in the store that I did that's 220 on one side, and then I did 220 on the other side, but I did it with just oil. I didn't sand it in, and everyone thinks the 220 with oil sanded in feels like 400. They think it's polished. They said it feels super smooth. And I said, okay, real simple. I said I did 120, 180, and then at 180, I sanded with oil with 220 grit. And that was it. It was 3 sanding steps on this cutting board done. And the other thing it does is that it soaks into the wood, allowing for the wood to harden from the inside out. So not only do you have an oil inside the wood that's now hardened, which will help against mold and mildew and just contamination of food in general, is that it's also more durable for water. So when you cut on it, you actually have oil that's deeper in there. So yeah, after talking to someone on the online chat about it and having to give them a step-by-step, which is, it's not a lot of steps when you have to write it out. It seems like a lot more, that I decided I'm just gonna have to make a video on this. That's all there is to it. And then cut the board in half so you can see how deep, because there is one in the store I did. It was a piece of cherry, and I sanded on both of the surface grain sides. It was like a block. And then I cut it so you could see where you just put oil on top without sanding it in. It was barely penetrating the wood fibers. The other one was like half an inch deep. So that showed a lot of customers like, oh, that is huge. That's super important. So that's my finishing tip for the night.
And that tip works really well on cutting boards.
Yeah.
Especially on cutting boards. So
yeah, it's funny because I see those people that are soaking them, and I'm thinking, man, you can save yourself so much time by just sanding it in and then hanging it up.
Yeah, because soaking it, it's only going to soak up so much. I mean, it does well on the end grain. It'll pull it in like straws, but
even then on the surface, a lot of time they sand the end grain to 400. Mm-hmm. So they burnish the wood, not allowing those wood fibers to really soak it up. So if you sand it to 180 and then sand with the grain, and in this case here, if it was in grain, I would just do it with a power sander because no one's going to notice. But if you could sand it with 220 and oil, you'd have a nice solid board. It's the best way I can describe it. Kyle says it's interesting. Looks forward to seeing that video. Hopefully it won't bore you to death. That's what I'm always worried about with my videos. You can ask Chris. I constantly go back and forth about doing videos, and I'm always talking myself out of it, I guess. It's the best way to put it.
Listen, if the topic is interesting enough, it won't matter how boring you are.
Good to know.
I mean, people watch me.
Yeah, but you're entertaining. You're wild. Even in the car driving to, where was it you were going? Nebo? Western North Carolina. So, next, what do you got for finishing?
Finishing? Listen, I'm a simple guy. I on that topographical map I did, man, I just strapped the cap on that aerosol can and went to town. I will say, though, normally in my olden days, I would have gone the easy route and sprayed easy vinyl on there to seal it. But I have learned that that seal coat from Zinsser does a great job of bringing out the grain, lightly tones it, and you don't have to use the easy vinyl. Then you can go right to the lacquer, and you've still brought your grain out. So
There you go. Well, and Kyle brings up a good question. He's seen a lot of people pop the grain with water lately. What are your thoughts on that process?
personally, the water's not popping the grain. The water's raising the grain,
Mm-hmm.
and you still have to sand it down. It does nothing to bring out the grain because you have to let the water dry before you apply your finish. So, and certain finishes will hide that grain more than other finishes will. You know, for instance, if you're looking for something really clear, an oil-based finish is going to be a little more yellow.
So I'm going to write that one down for YouTube ideas.
There you go.
All right, I'm working on my personal stuff while I'm also on the
Oh,
podcast.
okay. Yeah.
Popping and raising.
Like pop the collar.
Yeah, pop the collar, and then of course, raise the roof. So really what it comes down to, Kyle, is that people are, if they have figured woods and they're using water to pop it, they're really raising it like Chris said, and the what they're normally missing is actually sand it after that point and to add oil to it. Now, there's several different ways we can go about this depending on the wood to really have something pop. But oils such as linseed, Danish, even mineral oil give a chatoance to the wood, and so does that Zinsser seal coat. That shellac gives that pop or that 3D figure, the depth to it, and it has really nothing to do with raising the grain at that point, except for I think they're throwing it out there and they're getting confused. Because you don't do it to pop the grain. Popping it is making it three-dimensional. Raising the grain is just to make sure you got all your sanding marks out of the way that you may have missed.
And there are a lot of people who'll throw water on the surface before they finish it, just so they can say, "Oh, look at what this grain's going to do."
Yeah.
And then when they put their finish on, they're like, "Well, that doesn't look like that." They're just making the wood wet so you get a nice, cool look. That's it.
Well, so you can see it too. I mean, like I've seen it a lot with walnuts. The downside is that when you put a water-based finish, you're putting a plastic over top, and you're really killing a lot of that pop. You really need an oil. An oil is going to give you a true depth and pop that you can't get anywhere else, unfortunately. But I'm a water.
And that's the reason why I like the shellac or the seal coat, because the seal coat dries fast. It makes the grain look good, and then you can also go over top of it with whatever you want.
Anything you want to. Yeah, shellac. So raising the grain and shellac are probably the two best insurances that you can have as a new finisher on any project you're going to be doing, because popping the grain will show you your imperfections in sanding, anything that you may have missed, scratches, whatever. And then shellacking will give you the best results for whatever finish you want to put on top, because it's a medium. It'll go in between water or oil. It doesn't matter. So you could put an oil down, shellac over top, then water-based, and have a great looking finish. And also chemically, everything bonds together and is happy.
Yep. De-waxed shellac.
Yes.
That part's crucial.
That is crucial. I got a china cabinet mid-century, and the lady told me today when I picked it up, because she did a really good job on it. It's like a blue and rub through and all that, but she waxed the entire thing. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, thanks. Appreciate that.
Better you than me, my friend.
Yes. Yeah. I'll show you how to get around that, but yeah. Are you hand sanding or power sanding the oil in? It seems like power sanding oil would be messy and dangerous for the sander. So you would want to use no hole discs or a sheet sander. Ideally, you want to use an oscillating sheet sander, one that just goes back and forth.
That would be linear.
Linear? Okay. A linear sheet sander. Reason being is that you want to sand it with the grain so no one sees those scratches. They blend in. Random Morbid would just kind of show those scratches because you are using wet dry sandpaper, and it will leave swirl marks. That is for sure one of the things that will happen. But if you're doing in grain, it's so radical anyways, no one will see it with a Random Morbid. So it'll be okay.
Now I will say, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, based on your question there, when most people think about using oil or water as a medium, as a lubricant with sandpaper, it's not like you're in the lake, you know, under the water doing this. A lot of times it's a light mist because you're trying to just burnish that oil in or that water in to create that lubricant as your abrasive is working.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you're soaking the whole wood in an inch of oil and trying to sand all that in. It's a light surface application. And the dry once it starts, if it gets drier, obviously you want to put more oil on there. So
yeah, and that's going to be the thing that happens is that when you're sanding it in, you're going to have the oil soaking in. So you're going to start losing oil. So just a little bit. There is an area of hand sanding, especially with foam, that while you're sanding with enough oil, it just glides across the surface. And that's too much oil on it. You're actually lubricating, you're not abrading. It should actually catch, and you should feel a little bit of resistance as you're pushing. There'll be a point to where you're starting to push too hard, and that's not what you want either. So there's a fine line to get there. And once you figure it out, it's not that bad as far as, but there shouldn't be enough to where you're flinging it everywhere.
yeah, I mean you don't want to hear the sandpaper rubbing together sound, but you also don't want it to be slick like glass either. You want enough of that friction that you can feel the grit abrading the surface.
Yep. And my favorite for that really is butcher block countertops. People who want to have a utilitarian butcher block countertop, because I've never understood why people want to have a butcher block countertop and then put a cutting board on top of it. It's like, what's the point of having the butcher block countertop then? Just for the look? No, you want to use it. They're like, oh yeah, but I don't want to. So when you sand the oil in, and what's really nice about it too, being that it's 180 grit to 220 grit, when you sand the oil in, is that's all the maintenance you have to do as well is just a light sand with a grain, a little bit of oil. It'll blend any cross grain scratches from a knife, as well as it'll recondition the surface.
Yep.
Easy peasy.
Slice of cheesy.
Yeah. All right. So general woodworking is the final one. What you got for
I'm sorry, we're out of time.
Look at that. Y'all. Team chamfer on the politics. Aliens, do they exist? What else do we talk about? Up in smoke. And googly eyes.
Are you not going to spin the wheel?
I already did. It just stayed right there on the red.
Okay.
I like how the last one turned red, though.
Yeah. Well, originally I tried to color code them where the red ones were the ones that were trigger words. And I guess as you delete them from the wheel, it
reconfigures the wheel.
Yeah.
Well, we learned something new.
Yeah. But general woodworking, we're here for you. If you have any woodworking questions, please comment below or message us. We'll be happy to answer at Whatnot Podcast on Facebook and YouTube.
All right. So Wednesday nights, 9:00. Chris has now got his setup more amped. It's looking good there, dude. Sounding much better too.
I don't know about the gray headphones, but I'm not buying new ones. I've had these, so I'm just going to keep them.
It works with the Whatnot.
Yeah, it does blend in the background. I was noticing I can do this and make my head seem like I'm floating in air with that green screen back there. Max Hedstrom.
That was too close. Oh my gosh. And autofocus is even crazier. This is what happens when Chris drinks cheer wine. Where's your bottle? Hey, where's the bottle? Is it Sundrop?
Yeah.
That is totally worth the price of admission right here.
Okay, so if you're, Sundrop's outside of North Carolina now, so I have a Sundrop bottle. You can't see it because it's green. Now let's see what I can do if I can't get something in this shot.
Oh, I like how Sundrop stands out. That's cool.
Yeah, so Sundrop stands out. But everything else is green. So there you go.
I want you to save all your bottles so we can make a backdrop, a redneck green screen of nothing but Sundrop bottles. Be good.
I could CA glue those. Yeah.
Yeah, we could.
I don't drink that much Sundrop, so it might take a long time.
Oh, fair enough. I'll have to ask my father-in-law. He drinks a ton of it. But that would be hilarious to make a sun drop backdrop because it is the right green. It's perfect.
Sadly, it has the yellow writing on it, but we could peel the labels off.
Yeah, we just need the green bottle.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us Wednesday, 9:00 for the Whatnot podcast. I'm Mike Z.
And I'm Chris, and I do appreciate you enduring our oddities.
And he was not paid to say that either.
Maybe we're aliens.
Maybe I should have an outro just so you can do some more drumming and not worry about brownie recipes.
Take me to your leader.
On that note, everyone have a good night.
Maybe I'm Sasquatch.
Oh, Lord.